And we're back. It's another Neville and Chill. Welcome, everybody. We have an amazing show planned for you tonight. I'm very excited that we have Tamer back with us. If you remember, Tamer was on 2 weeks ago. He was our guest in part 2 of a Magic Love series. Part 1, we got to hear from his beautiful wife, Angela. And in part 2, we got to hear his side of the magic love story. And just knowing Tamer and also telling a little bit of that backstory about how Tamer and I even became connected to begin with, Tamer is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to some very interesting topics. I find them extremely fascinating. Some of these topics about consciousness and imagination, and specifically technology, devices that can be used to interact with and interface with our imagination and create other states of consciousness. It's really a whole world to explore here. And when I had a chance to really connect with him, and we heard a little bit about that in the last episode that we had him on, I asked him, I said, Tamer, will you come back and give us just an episode talking specifically about what you've learned from all of your years in the biohacking space, the health, wellness, fitness space? Tamer has such a passion for inspiring people to really live their best lives through health and wellness. And I wanted to give him an opportunity just to come back and kind of harvest all of his years in this space and give us an insider's perspective into some of these topics. So I'm going to start just by introducing Tamer here, giving a little bit of a introduction here. So Tamer, for 15 years, has been working in the physical education, coaching, and fitness industries. He has a bachelor's degree in public health. He's a master trainer in anti-gravity fitness techniques and is also a certified life mastery coach under the Tony Robbins Institute. And he has dedicated his life to inspiring people to live a physically active, mentally awake, vibrant life. Tamer is also the director and founder of his wellness company, Tame Life, where he holds international teacher trainings, wellness retreats, virtual coaching workshops, and supports people with unique at-home wellness technology to empower people to remember that health is wealth. And we're going to hear more about some of that wellness technology tonight. Tamer, thank you so much for being with us here on Neville and Chill.
Thank you, Josiah. It's great to be back.
I'm so glad that you were able to take the time. I know that you and Angela, as parents of a young one, time can be in demand here. So we're excited to have you with us. Welcome to Neville and Chill. So let's take a minute and let's welcome everybody we have in the chat. I'm also going to set the vibe here, get a little bit of background music going just to kind of dial it in for this deep dive conversation about the power of imagination. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. We're going to get the vibes going here. All right. Welcome to everybody in the chat. So we do this podcast live. We're on YouTube. Let's see who we've got here. We have Anna, always with us on Neville and Chill. We've got Moon Bunny. Hey there, Moon Bunny. Jackie, Oksana, and Bonnie. All right. Quins. May we all leave this session empowered. Yes. Beautiful intention. Elena, welcome. Natisha. Oh, awesome. Hey, everybody. Okay, so Tamer, thank you so much for coming back. We're going to go ahead and just jump right in here. So I wanted to start by kind of doing a little bit of an introduction. So this whole idea of biohacking, some of us know what it is. Some of us are probably super experienced, and probably a lot of us have heard the term and maybe don't really know what is meant by it. So maybe start us off there, kind of give us a little bit of insight. What is biohacking?
Yeah, well, first of all, again, thank you, Josiah, for making this happen. I am thrilled to be back on this incredible show and to be, speaking to this community tonight about a topic that I'm so passionate about. It's a real treat. So I want to first say thank you. And I'm looking forward to just bringing in a shared learning conversation this evening around a topic and a whole new field of science that is really exciting. And for now, it's been since like at least 20 years since this whole topic of biohacking has really hit the mainstream, I've been able to luckily just ride on some of the coattails of the masters who are really setting the stage for individuals like myself who are really passionate about health and well-being, who are really dedicated to living their most optimal, vibrant, just filled with energy, and as well as with the longevity aspect of living to 100 years in mind, right? So it's been this just really kind of special experience for me to be able to watch how it's evolved so much over now the past really 20 years. And yeah, I'm just excited that I get to talk about it this evening with your audience. So again, thanks for welcoming me back. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, what is biohacking? Biohacking is essentially a field of science, all science backed, that helps people, everyday people, live and feel better. In its nutshell, like little tiny things you can do to live and feel better. And there's a ton of research around this whole space of biohacking, and we don't have to go deep into all of like the intricacies of the science, but it's basically the little things that you can do to impact your body, your physiology, your emotional state, your mental health, or something in a higher space of consciousness to feel better every day. That's how I like describing it. So little things that you can do to feel better every day are actually, it's like much easier than the whole word of and the whole field of science that it kind of is amped up to be, per se.
Yeah,
So
it sounds almost a little intimidating, like biohacking. Like that sounds kind of intense, and you're like, no. This is like little meaningful lifestyle upgrades that can have a big amplification effect on the quality of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've been biohacking for since the dawn of the days. This is not something that's new. They've just added this term to it that basically means hacking some part of your biochemistry to feel better, to live longer, to have better energy, and to ultimately just live a more enjoyable, have a better quality of life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very, I think anybody can relate to that. And we've got Anna in the chat saying, yeah, 100 is totally doable. So interesting, Tamer, I want to make this point. So definitely lifespans are expanding. And I think a lot of us are imagining long lifespans, like using our imagination, our consciousness to create an experience of a long lifespan. But it's not the length, it's the quality, right? So I think that's really where we can land this biohacking conversation. It's like, we're going to live longer anyways. Let's do what we can, make these little upgrades to maximize the quality of life in these extended lifespans.
Exactly. And I mean, now with all the technology that we have at our fingertips and the accessibility of it across the board, in any given city, you can now find a med spa or a biohacking center and go in and experience these services that are all aimed at helping you live longer with that type of quality, not just live to 100 and for the last 20 bits of your life, be in pain, but like really live a long, enjoyable life. And 100 is doable. It's like the new standard for this community. Like 100, these guys want to live to 150. What they say in that space is unheard of, but now it's really possible with how much this whole field of science has really evolved. And we have to thank technology and human consciousness, as well as the leaders who are really pushing these new cutting edge modalities to the space. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time if you like this topic, and if you're into this type of stuff for well-being. It is definitely it's an exciting time to watch it grow and to be able to experience it yourself.
So I've noticed that biohacking is kind of a rabbit hole, meaning that you can kind of hang around the entrance and be like, oh, this is cool. And then you can also go super deep, right? Literally as deep as you want to go. So we're not going to go all the way in the rabbit hole tonight, but we're going to go a little bit into it. But really, I think what I'm most curious about, Tamer, is you've been pretty far deep down the rabbit hole, right? So what can you bring back in terms of Now that we've kind of set a definition for what biohacking is, like, what are your favorite techniques, favorite little biohacks, life upgrades, quality of life upgrades, that type of thing?
Yeah, and again, this is a never-ending, it's like a never-ending journey. The more you dig, the deeper it goes. And I always like preface it with, find what works for you and just do a little bit of that every day. If that makes you feel good, stay consistent with that every day. Like, as an example, one of my favorite biohacks as a new daddy is, I literally am up every day 6:30 on the dot with my son saying, dad, let's play ball, in his 1-year-old dad ball like language. And
Okay.
I walk out on the balcony and the sun is rising right around 6:45, 7 a.m. And it's that time of day when the sun's like the frequencies from the sun are giving you the most beneficial rays. That like red light, like beautiful sunrise, sunset type of rays of light are the most beneficial for your eyes and for your brain. So like a really easy one, if you're a morning person or an evening person and you have access to watching the sunrise or the sunset, is to expose yourself to sunlight during those times of day when the sun is just further enough away from the earth to where it produces that red light type of frequency. So one of my favorites is actually, just that. It's red light, because it is such an incredible way to, what we've in science has now been around for the past 80 years, with how red light was first used for the astronauts of NASA. And I mean, the benefits of just exposing your body to red light are so profound, especially within the little bits of your cells called your mitochondria. So basically your mitochondria, it's like your cell phone battery. And if you don't charge it, it dies and the cells then degenerate. And it also leads to other challenges within your overall well-being, specifically inflammation and other like degenerative type of things start to happen when your cells aren't as healthy. So a great easy biohack you can do without any technology is just enjoy the sunrise or the sunset. Or if you're really keen to go deeper, get yourself a good red light device, because I mean, it is incredible for how red light therapy and the vast array of red light therapy products that are now on the market, it's just really incredible for what that does to overall well-being. Like, I use my red light device every single night before I sleep, put it right on my gut brain. Your gut brain is where melatonin is produced. So it connects between your brain and your gut. This melatonin is naturally produced in your gut. And if you use red light on your tummy before you go to bed, you no longer need to rely on like taking melatonin tablets or other forms of like sleep products to essentially sleep better. So red light therapy, number one, hands down. If you don't have a red light device, get something. My favorite is Flex Beam. I'll post it in the chat. It's targeted red light. It's incredible. I use it on my stomach. I use it after the gym on my low back. I'll use it on my face for like a collagen, like a nice warming collagen booster. And there's just tons of benefits for red light therapy.
Fantastic. So red light therapy is definitely something that is becoming very mainstream. We have one here in the house, and also even my hot yoga studio has an array of them, several red light rooms that people are using as well. So I did not know that using it on the belly specifically would assist with the generation of melatonin. That's new for me. That's fascinating. Obviously, I think in these spaces, we've talked a lot about how there's at least 3 brains. There's obviously the one in the head, the one in the heart. There's neuronal structures in the heart. And we know there's neuronal structures in the gut too, but I hadn't connected the, melatonin being generated in the gut. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The gut brain axis is where melatonin is organically, it comes from. So when you put red light on your stomach, it stimulates that production of melatonin and helps sleep. And furthermore, for any athletes or anybody who is, exercising, it is the best way to reduce inflammation. Hands down, it's one of the best natural ways to reduce inflammation, because as the red light hits your cell, it releases what's called nitric oxide. And that nitric oxide is basically what lowers that like inflamed, like your low back is sore from running or your knees are sore from whatever exercise you're doing. That nitric oxide is released, and it basically helps just reduce inflammation in any muscle. So that's the second thing. And then third thing is for bone collagen. So when you, with light at certain frequencies, can go deeper into your skin. So you have skin, and then you have muscles, a deeper layer, and then you have bone. So when you have a red light device that can hit at certain frequencies and go deeper, you can actually help really boost collagen specifically for joint pain. So like, for example, my uncle, he just, a little story, he's a world champion gymnast. He's the guy behind aerial yoga. And I'll talk a little bit more about that because it's another great biohack for your spine, but he just recently had knee surgery. And I sent him my flex beam, and not only did it help the scar, the scarring, dramatically cut his recovery time in half, but his knees have never felt better. He said it was because of the red light therapy that radically helped him, both with the recovery time as well as to help boost that collagen post-surgery, so that his knees are just stronger and more mobile than ever.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I got a question in the chat here. So Orlena's asking, so for an example, supplementing oxygen. So you see like the oxygen bars, in Las Vegas, that's where I remember them from. Oxygen bars. Is that an example of a biohack?
Yes, totally.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And cold plunge.
You're getting more oxygen into you're oxidizing your blood. So you don't need to go to the oxygen bar and stick things up your nose. I mean, it's fun and it feels good, but the second biohack, and probably it should be number one, but number two, and what we can all do every day and don't need to buy anything besides the sunlight or red light, is your breath. And if you can learn the power of breath work and the different styles of breathing and the different cadences for when you inhale and when you hold and when you exhale, when you hold, and then how you can prolong exhalation to lower your heart rate, and you can speed up exhalation to get more, increase your energy. There's so much science around breath work, and it is perhaps the most accessible to all. We just forgot how to breathe. For whatever reason, we live in this world of angst with our screens and with our postures all, messed up, that we really forgot how to connect the physiology of breathing in through the nose and how it expands the diaphragm, that muscle, right? So your diaphragm's a muscle, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So the more you can learn about how to connect the physiology and the feeling and the sensation of breathing, it's hands down it should be number one on the list, but I got to it at number two because we talked about the oxygen bar, and there's around breath work, and there's for example, one of my favorite ones is it's the lymphizing breath. So it's like a breath that helps reduce toxins from your body, and it gets you into just a really nice, clear-headed, calm, conscious state. And it's a cadence. So you inhale, if you want to do it with me, you can breathe in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take a big breath in for 3 seconds. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3. And at the top of that breath, you're going to hold it for 8 seconds. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you're going to exhale for 7 seconds. Slowly, 7, 6, 5. Mouth or nose, it's fine. 4, 3, 2, 1. At the bottom, you're going to hold it for 2 seconds. Hold it. 1, 2. And now again, breathe in for 3 seconds. And at the top, hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now exhale for 7. Go for it. Just let it all out. Feel your body relaxing. Feel that heart rate slowing down as you exhale. 2, 1. And then hold it right there for 2 seconds. Okay, just one more time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, Good. Exhale. Feel your body just melting. Feel your mind coming back to presence. 4, 3, 2, 1. And as you come to the bottom, hold it for 2 seconds. Nice. And just take a big breath in through your nose, and then exhale, natural breathe. The harmonizing breath. It is, if you do that for 15 minutes before you sleep, it will radically improve your sleep every night. It's called the sleep breath. If you do it for 5 minutes, it harmonizes your, it's kind of, we call it the harmonizing breath, because it kind of harmonizes your body, your heart to your mind. It reconnects your, like what we know is heart math, reconnects your heart to your brain. So you have harmonizing for 5 minutes, or you do it for 15 minutes, the same cadence before you go to sleep, and you'll sleep better.
I have to say, so I've done something like this. I didn't make it past about 6 minutes. I was out. It's like a light. I don't know. It's superhero to make it to 15 minutes and still be awake.
Yeah, it's true. You'll fall asleep. If you do it for 5 or 6 minutes before bed, you'll fall right asleep. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
fantastic. Yeah. I just have to really second this whole idea of the breath work. So the breath work is our first interface to our nervous system and really to our physiology as consciousness, as the doer in the body. Most of what is happening in our nervous system is subconscious and unconscious. It just happens. But the breath in particular is our interface from the presence that we are, the doer in the body, to our physiology, to our actual physical body. The breath is the first relationship. It's the first aspect of access to that. So really, what I've had a lot of experience using, breathwork has completely changed my life. I first was introduced to it when I went to yoga teacher training in Costa Rica many years ago. There's a whole pranayama part of that training. And that's really when I first had access to exactly how it can be used to shift states. And so since then, I've had a pretty consistent breathwork practice. And one of the things that I use it for, that I think is of interest to our Neville audience here, is I use it to help shift brainwave states. When it's time to access deeper levels of imagination, to calm the monkey mind, and to access, kind of get out of beta and come up towards alpha, towards a higher, and even get towards that alpha theta cusp that you're going to speak about here in a moment. Breath work, I really find that that's like a key. It's a tool to be able to access and calm the mind and kind of find that calmer, smoother, stiller place.
Yes.
I'm so zenned out now after that breath work. That was awesome. Yeah, we just got real chill over here. Yeah.
We're chilling.
You're very chill. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. I didn't know about your story with the yoga teacher training, but for anybody who practices yoga, you know it as pranayama. And there are many different types of pranayama practices that are all really essentially, like, what's the best type of breath work? I'll tell you, it's the one that you consciously do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Consciously do. And you breathe, again, consciously, because we forget about consciously breathing. We're mostly like in our upper chest, breathing shallow breaths throughout our day, and then wake up wondering why we have, these health problems. Well, a lot of it can really be boiled down to just lack of conscious breathing. So yeah, again, for anybody in the yoga space, pranayama. For anybody in the biohacking space, there's a whole plethora of different types of cadence breathing. You have harmony breathing, sleep breathing, anxiety breathing. You have box breathing, which was made famous by kind of like the Navy SEALs and like incredible, endurance athletes, where you inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold for 5. That's a really accessible one too, because you just inhale, 5 is your cadence for both the inhale, the hold, the exhale, the hold. So anyway, breath work, number 2, hands down. Learn about how to consciously breathe, and it will radically improve your life.
So I have another thing I want to share here about the power of breath work. So in 2019, my partner and I traveled to France for I think it was like a 9-day retreat focused on the topic of astral projection with a famous astral projection teacher. We were in the mountains at a monastery learning how to consciously bring our energy body out of our physical body. And while a lot of techniques were taught in that retreat, we went deep. Really, when looking back, it was the breath work that really was the key to being able to charge the energy body to the point where it could separate from the physical body. So when I had the astral projection experiences, I had 2 of them there. When I had that, it was really the breathing that got me there, more than the audio tracks, more than the induction, more than the, I mean, obviously I was setting an intention. So I think the intention was probably the first, but aside from just the intention of, hey, I'm doing this, imagining being successful, really it was the breath work that enabled me access to that altered state where I was able to come up out of the physical body and do my thing. That's a story I'll have to share more about on another Neville and Jill.
That's awesome. Yeah, amazing. And basically a lot of that is what you're doing is it's like a borderline hyperventilation. Or
Yes.
You're over oxidizing your blood to that point of like, it's almost like an out of body experience. And you're just basically giving your blood so much oxygen that it produces that type of state, which is really cool. And there are other really interesting people in that space right now, one of which, and what kind of goes into my third favorite biohack, his name is Wim Hof. Wim Hof is this gnarly Norwegian dude that has broken world records from the longest swim underneath like icebergs in the Antarctic to climbing Mount Everest with no tanks, just in shorts. The dude's insane. And I actually saw him when I was at a Tony Robbins event in New York, and he got the entire audience into that, like kind of what you were describing, that really intense, almost like hyperventilation breath work practice that he teaches in his techniques. And his whole thing is breath work plus cold exposure, which is my third biohack. Cold exposure produces what's called a lizard type of brain, or the reptilian brain. And when you get your brain into that state, it unlocks a whole field of different dimensions, not only within imagination and consciousness, but also what's known as like the flow state, where athletes are like so super focused on one thing that their brain and the chemistry of their brain is actually firing and wiring at whole new levels, essentially. And so, I mean, there's Wim Hof's technique, which is really cool, is basically teaching people how to breathe and then expose their bodies to cold. So when I was in Japan, traveling during some of my teacher training years, I would go in the sauna and get really hot in these Japanese like hot springs houses, which are awesome, by the way. If anybody ever has the experience, can anytime go to Japan, it's life-changing because of how this culture, first of all, they live the longest on earth for a reason. And I truly believe that part of that, it's not only they have a healthier diet and are far more active, like they walk everywhere, but they also have these types of like naturally like biohacking elements of their culture. For example, bathing. So around the corner, just like you go to your gym, they have an onsen or a hot springs house. And so you'll go into the hot springs and you'll pay the $5 entry fee. And men and women are separated on both sides, and because it's all nude. And you'll go in and there's a series of natural hot springs water, which just feel great to relax. But in every one of them, there's a sauna, a hot, dry sauna. That's usually about 190 degrees Fahrenheit, like it's really hot. And then right next to it is a cold plunge. And for anybody who's aware of this biohacking space, it's called contrast therapy. So you basically get your body really, really hot and you'll breathe. And then after about 10 minutes of that, you'll go into the cold plunge. And what that does is it completely, like you feel like every cell of your body was just like recharged, revitalized. Like it's the tingly sensation where your skin and your blood and you feel your heartbeat change. You feel your lungs with a new VO2 max capacity. You feel your brain like, whoa, the sharpness of your brain changes. It's really incredible. And cold exposure is one of it's actually my third favorite for that reason. So you don't have to go to Japan to experience it. You can just at the end of your shower, turn it to cold for the last minute and get similar benefits. Great for inflammation, great for circulation. It's also one of those things that it's a little bit tough. It's like it's kind of hard doing, but you feel so good afterward. And I highly recommend it.
So for me, doing the cold plunge, I come out of that and it's like I've never felt more alive like more like in my body. Like it's like, you know, all this talk about coming out of the body and astral projection, all that type of stuff. Well, okay, balance that with really being here. And cold plunge is a way to really be here.
Yeah. Talk about get you into present real quick. Jump
Super
into it.
lucid. Yes. Yeah.
And then if you can remember the breath work, that's the key to Wim Hof teaching. You do the breath work while you're in the ice bath, and you can last much longer because you're giving your blood the oxygen that it needs to withstand the cold exposure. And so not only can you withstand the cold much easier, but you also expand what's called your VO2 max. VO2 max is like how long can your body retain oxygen before it starts producing carbon dioxide, right? Like when you breathe in, you hold your breath, and then you know, like when it starts to like hurt and you're like, oh, I'm gonna die, I need to breathe. Or like, or if anybody's done diving, like you dive underwater, right? And you hold your breath underwater. How long can you hold it? And you start to feel like it's like really uncomfortable and you need to come up or you're going to die. Well, believe it or not, you can last 2 to 3 minutes longer than your mind wants you to believe in these types of breath holding experiences. And it was really cool. When I was in Taiwan, actually, I did a free diving course. So for anybody who knows about free diving, it's basically you dive underwater with no tank and you follow a rope down and you go to a certain depth. And it's this is 100%, probably, okay, let's say 95% all of it is mental. The other 5% is how is your VO2 max, and are you able to overcome mostly your mind's fear telling you that it feels like you're gonna die because it's so uncomfortable, but you're really not, and you can last much longer. So in the free diving course, the first day was all about breath work. It is learn the breathing, do the breath holds. The coach then will sign you off and let you go into the water after you've proven that you can hold your breath for at least 2 minutes. So I challenge you, for any of the viewers out there, like, do your breathing, do the harmony breathing that we just did. And then at the end of it, like, do it for at least 2 minutes of like that breathing, like really oxidize your blood. And you can even change. You don't have to do harmony. You can just inhale and let it go. That's the Wim Hof technique. Just breathe in through your nose and then exhale and just let it go. Do that for 2 minutes. And then at the end of it, hold your breath and time yourself and see how long you can hold it. And that timer is basically your body. And when you start to feel the discomfort, that is basically this carbon dioxide being released in your body, which makes you feel uncomfortable. You kind of start to hiccup. It feels like, really like painful. That is when it's kind of the indicator of your VO2 max, which is a key indicator of health and longevity when it comes to like your lungs and your heart. So that's another little easy one anybody can do every day is how long can you hold your breath?
Fantastic. So I just want to, I saw something in the chat here. So I just wanted to call out, we're going to talk more about it a little bit later in the show, but Neville and Chill now has a Discord server, and the show notes, everything that we're talking about tonight is going to be linked up there. Give us until tomorrow morning just to get the links to the flex beam, everything that Tamer's mentioning here. We're going to get all the links, and even Tamer's going to be in there too. So if you have questions, you can tag him in your questions and kind of get some interaction there. But definitely check out the Discord server. And then I also, because we're still early in the stream, I want to let you all know we have an amazing giveaway coming up here. We are giving away a biohacking device. So stay tuned. And also, to get access to the giveaway, you have to join the Discord server. So I just wanted to plant that seed. Go ahead and hop in that Discord server. It's pinned in the chat. There's also a link right at the top of the video. Yes. Fantastic.
You're not going to want to miss this giveaway.
You're not going to want to miss this giveaway. I'm super excited about it, and I'm not even eligible, right? So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm excited for all of you. I'm excited that we got this approved because it's kind of a big deal. But yeah, so that's a little teaser here. Go ahead and continue there, Tamer, with your favorite biohacking techniques.
Yeah, sure. But first of all, jump into that Discord because it's like Josiah just launched it. So if you're not in there, take 5 minutes now to sign up, put your email, put your name, put your number, whatever, fill out that form, get in there, because this is a really cool thing that I also want to make sure that we promote because it's Josiah. He's a legend, and the community he's creating is remarkable. So take
Thank
2
you.
minutes now.
Thank
Click
you.
the link, sign up.
Yeah, if that didn't give you FOMO. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hop on in there. Frank, I sent you an invite personally, man, so I hope you're in there. Frank just hopped in the chat. Yeah, okay.
Cool. All right, guys. So we talked about breath work. We talked about red light. We talked about contrast therapy. The cool thing about these three is they're all three that you don't actually need to buy anything. They're alive in nature, and that's what's so amazing about the body and earth and consciousness and this what's been around for millennia is we know how to live long based on our ancestral evolution. We've just in this day and age become so caught up in modern society and technology that actually decreases our lifespan and we've forgotten. So it's a lot of it is like kind of like what you teach, Josiah. There's like this remembrance, and that is innate in all of us, that if we can just tap into remembering that source of pure energy and pure potential and longevity and vibrancy, it's all within you now. It's all right there with the sun. It's in your lungs. It's in your shower, right? So it's all very accessible, and highly recommend start with what you have now and just do a little bit every day of like what you can do now. But if we move on to a couple which were a little bit more, let's call it high tech or very innovative. My fourth most favorite biohack, believe it or not, it's where I first discovered this whole concept of biohacking. It's in your morning coffee, put a little bit of grass-fed butter and a little bit of MCT oil. And believe it or not, when you mix coffee with butter and with coconut oil, what that does for your brain is it gives your brain the fats that it needs. It's almost like a boost of adrenaline, but a healthy one. And not only that, for anybody who's looking for like ways to change your body composition, it's a terrific way for essentially curbing hunger in a healthy way, right? Because you're giving your body the fats that it needs. Coffee has tons of health benefits that I also believe in, both adaptogens and things there's a ton of science about how coffee is actually in 2 to 3 cups a day is actually healthy for us. And if you mix it with a little bit of coffee and butter, it just takes it to a whole new level. And this is actually where the whole biohacking world came from, by a man named Dave Asprey, who brought the Bulletproof coffee to the world. And in his little shop down in Venice Beach, butter coffee became the thing that started this whole trend of now what we know is biohacking. And I mean, it's kind of weird at first. I'm not going to lie. Like, you have to really blend it, like get a little, like a frother and blend it and make sure it's all properly mixed in. But the benefits of it are remarkable. It doesn't break your fast. It gives your brain the healthy fats that you need. And it gives you this like really incredible, I say like adrenaline, but it's also like this just feeling of energy and focus that I highly recommend to anybody who's never tried it. Give it a shot. Add some butter and MCT oil to your coffee and notice the difference. And the reason why I'm a big promoter of it is because I was in India when I discovered this thing, and the tour guide who was guiding us through the Golden Triangle of India every morning was mixing butter in his coffee. I'm like, AJ, what are you doing? Like, that looks gross, man. Come on, what? He's like, no, Tamer, I tell you, like, add some fat to your coffee and you'll have more energy through the day. Be as hungry in the morning. So I started doing it, and I immediately, like, I could go through all these temples. And like when you're on a tour, it's nonstop. Like you're traveling, you're up in a bus, you're out and around. It's picture, and then in and then around it. So it's very intense traveling. And I found that the Bulletproof coffee, or the butter and coffee hack, really was just amazing. And from then on, I've always been a big promoter of it. So give it a shot. See how it feels good. And then the second reason why it was so cool is my sister actually lost like 20 pounds on it. I'm like, Tenny, what are you doing? Like you look, it's amazing. Like, wow, you look great. She's like, I just started doing Bulletproof coffee every morning, and it just kind of holds your appetite over until like you can have a nice proper lunch. So instead of eating like whatever, just carbs and stuff and for breakfast, and not all the time she was having the best breakfast meals, whatever. It was like this morning meal replacement that gave her focus and that helped her hunger, and she lost 20 pounds on it. So I was like, wow, if it can help you with that, I mean, it can help anybody who's really sincerely interested in body composition and in biohacking with coffee. So highly recommend that as one that you can try.
Fantastic. So I just started doing that about 2 weeks ago. The whole
nice.
butter
It's perfect
and
time.
coconut oil. Yeah, just like 2 weeks ago. But for me, so I don't do normal coffee. I do the mushroom coffee, which is kind of like a little more trendy thing, I think, right now. So it's chaga, it's reishi, it's these different extracts, and then like a little bit of coffee built into the drink mix. And with this particular, I'm a huge fan of chocolate. I love cacao. You know about that, right? The cacao ceremonies. I love chocolate. I also I have this theory that there are compounds in chocolate. Well, let's say dark chocolate specifically, that support certain neurological functions that can assist from a physiological perspective, having a vivid, awake imagination. Like dark chocolate, I think, can actually support that physically. So I love dark chocolate. So this particular powder mushroom coffee that has like a chocolate base, and adding that coconut and the butter in there, oh, it is so delicious. Like I keep I'll make it and I'll start about taking it. Oh my God, it's so good. And I give it to Carrie and I'm like, you need to try this. And she's like, wow. But only a sip, right? I just tease her with it. She's like, oh, just a sip. No, give it back. Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. So yeah, but in terms of benefits, what I've noticed is that it feels like I have all of the energy I need to stay focused. That's what it feels like. It's like for several hours after drinking that, it's like I'm here, I'm present, I'm focused. I'm not thinking about, oh, I need to eat breakfast. I'm not thinking about, oh, when's my next meal? It's like my brain has everything it needs, is what it feels like. I feel fully empowered to stay focused on whatever I'm doing.
Yes, exactly. That is the feeling where you have that focus and your body's not digesting food. So you have the energy to just really crush whatever it is you're working on that day, whether it's physical training or something that you have to focus on for work, or anything that requires focus. Like focus is like our superpower, right? If we can learn how to attune and regularly practice focused attention, you can create any reality you want, right? Imagination stems from our ability to be able to be in that state of focused attention, to be able to go through the imagination processes. So anything that helps boost focus will help, I believe, lead to a better imagination practice. So give it a shot. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, Breck's wasting no time. He's like, I'm into the coffee and I'm putting butter in it right now.
Let's go.
Oh, let's go. Yeah, awesome. And Elena's pointing out you can add MCT oil to really anything. Smoothies. It's so rich and beneficial. And also in the background, I keep hearing my notifications going off in Discord. Y'all are really joining in mass here, so that's awesome. Looking forward to connecting. This is how we can keep the conversation going. I've had the desire to do that for a while, so finally we got it all set up, and this will enable us to chat throughout the week and share ideas and inspiration. And like I said, we're going to get Tamer in there. Hopefully get Angela in there too. We could just have a good old Neville and Chill party over there. So thank you everybody for hopping in on that. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's do a quick review. So you said red light, yes. You said breath work, cold exposure, MCT and butter, and what was the other one? I feel like there's one more.
I would say with the cold exposure, if you can add the contrast of the
The
sauna
contrast therapy, yes.
with the cold, it's even better. But take a cold shower at the end is great.
Yes. Okay.
And then, which brings us to number, I believe this is 5,
Okay.
and it's called the zero compression inversion. And this is really like dear to me because the originator of the aerial yoga genre, for anybody who's heard about aerial yoga, it's where you basically take a silk hammock, suspend it from the ceiling, and there's a variety of different postures that you can do. Well, the man that brought that to the world for the yoga center is actually my uncle. His name is Christopher Harrison. So shout out to Uncle Chris. And he started it with this brand called AntiGravity. So out of New York City, the people who were first getting pink upside down in the Grammys and were performing with Obama's inauguration, and I think I kind of tapped on that a little bit on our last episode, they found, and these are high performance Olympic caliber dancers, athletes, performers, at like elite level athletes who are at that level of training. They found it was so useful for their spine that Uncle Chris decided to put together all his background of Pilates and dance and aesthetics and yoga and combine it into a fusion exercise using a silk hammock. And this technique it's revolutionized fitness gyms and yoga studios in over 50 countries worldwide. And the reason why it's so special is because it's my uncle that started it, believe it or not. And I had my first experience with it when I was 18 years old. I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was coaching snowboarding at the time. And to coach snowboarding to a group of like after school kids with a blizzard, like a blizzard condition, and I have 20 kids that I have to get down the mountain safely. It just did a number on my body, like my back, having to hike through powder and carry some of the kids down who got stuck in the trees, and just being on a mountain in the snow for hours on end, 5 days a week. It was just really, really physically exhausting. And this was around the same time that Uncle Chris was coming up with this technique, and he was in town doing a training. And so he invited me to come. He's like, hey, come check out this new yoga technique called AntiGravity yoga. So I went to the class. I tipped upside down, and it was this miraculous moment of like physical awakening where I felt every single vertebra of my spine just release and realign. I felt this like burst of like openness, and come to find out, and 15 years later, spreading the technique all over Asia and training thousands of people in it. It was kind of one of the original biohacks of helping people with back pain. And to this day on, I'm the guy in the gym that brings the hammock on the monkey, on the chin-up bars, and hangs upside down after my workout, because I know how this technology can radically improve your health. And, if you have a healthy spine, you'll have a healthier body. It really comes down to that. A healthy spine is a healthier body. And if you can decompress the spine by hanging upside down, you can prolong the health of your spine, because you'll give it the rehydration and the alignment and the decompression that it needs. And so you think about our daily training, like we'll run or we walk or we sit or we weight train or we do other exercises, even a lot of yoga. It's very compressive on the joints. But as our body ages, especially as we age, our bodies actually need more decompression than compression training for longevity. That's why yoga and hot yoga and these modalities have become so popular, because we as humans realize that actually, if you're just smashing your body with weight training your whole life, you're only just aging your joints faster. So the joints need lubrication, the spine needs decompression, and our muscles need to be elastic and be able to be like flexible and mobile. And so the hammock is just, the AntiGravity hammock is just an incredible tool that, if you're willing to get a monkey bar in your house or find a way to anchor it into your ceiling, and you learn how to tip upside down once a day, not only will it help you feel better, but it has a huge benefits for the spine and for longevity. So that's my 5th one. Gotta check it out.
Fantastic. So I'm going to have you post some pictures, videos in the Discord of you doing it, you know, some B-roll. I know you teach it, you host events, like anything from that to help people kind of understand what you mean when you say that. But also for people who think of a silk hammock and maybe get a little bit intimidated, I have to ask, what about an inversion, like just a table that flips you? Is that also a similar benefit?
It's similar because it's reversing your blood flow, which is going to be beneficial for your circulation. So I think about it all day long. We're upright. Our heart has to work against gravity to circulate our blood. So one of the greatest things about going upside down, or even an even more simple one without the inversion table, is just to elevate your hips above your heart, right? Like, you know, when you sit down, like you go into your chair, whatever, you kick your feet up and it feels so good. Well, go to like a wall or like at the edge of your bed and like put your feet up a little bit higher. So like your hips are just slightly elevated above your heart. And that reverse of blood flow basically refreshes your lymphatic system and brings a whole new fresh supply of blood and nutrients to your heart and to your brain. And it just, after, you know, you've been standing or sitting all day, it just kind of feels good for your body. So the inversion tables are good. Sitting on the edge of a couch with your feet up is easier. The silk hammock is unique because it wraps around the sacrum. So at the very base of your spine, you have this it's like triangular piece of your vertebra called your sacrum. And as the hammock wraps around the sacrum, it just literally, you allow gravity to do all the hard work as it pulls each one of those vertebra and creates more space for the discs to regenerate. So hammock is superior. Teeter boards are great. They're a little bit clunky. That's why the only thing I don't like about them is they're not as accessible. The easiest one for everyday listener right now, just go to the edge of your bed, lay on the floor, and put your feet up on it and let the blood flow. Just change the direction of the blood flow. And it's really, really good for circulation, and it'll just make you feel better.
Fantastic.
Yes. Okay. So I'll send some pictures of the hammock stuff. And also, if you want to see some videos, there's a ton of cool stuff on like YouTube or other like video platforms that you can check out. AntiGravity yoga. It's a special one. If you learn how to tip upside down, it will be one of those things that you can use for the rest of your life that'll always keep your spine healthy. And if you can keep your spine healthy as you age, you'll age more gracefully and you'll live longer and more healthily. So my uncle he's almost 70 years old and still can do backflips in his yoga studio because of his hammock, and he's had knee surgeries. This guy's almost 70.
Wow.
So it's pretty remarkable what people are able to, how people are able to age and kind of reverse the aging process by reversing your body, essentially, by tipping upside down, right? And the reason why, you know, the possums and the bats, these animals they never get arthritis, they don't have the same type of health problems, because they're always hanging upside down. The reason why the cheetah is the fastest animal on earth is because of the flexibility of its spine in both directions. So if we kind of relate it to the human physiology, if you can keep your spine healthy and you can keep your blood flowing and changing the direction of blood flow, you can live longer, you can be faster on the field, and you can kind of shorten these types of other ailments that impact us from sedentary lifestyles. So give it a try.
Yeah. Brilliant. And also important to point out, especially laying at the end of your bed, putting your feet up, that's free, right? You don't have to, there's no equipment, there's no, gym membership. Like it's in nature, as you said. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay.
So that one is a little more high tech. It requires having a suspension apparatus. So the accessibility it's not always there, but if you're willing to try or find an aerial yoga studio, or, do one of the, look on YouTube to find a video for how to hang up a hammock in your house or from like a chin-up bar, you'll be glad you did. Your spinal, thank you.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, I see Carrie saying, I think I need to get a silk hammock for the basement.
Yeah, yeah, do
We'll
it.
be sharing pictures of that, I'm sure.
Do it. And if you wanna,
Awesome.
you can ping me and I'll give you we can do a free 20-minute video session for how to get upside down safely.
Okay. Sounds great. Okay, so so you shared your favorite techniques, some of them free, some of them a little bit more premium, some food, some breathing, some forms of exercise. Let's start to talk a little bit about some of the technology. You can go ahead and get into some of that.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, again, these are biohacks that I'm sharing with you tonight that I found that really work for me. And the key thing here when it comes to your well-being is you just have to find what works for you and stay consistent. If you can add a little bit every single day that keeps you consistent towards making your health is your wealth like the top priority, because it's actually like at the end of the day your most valuable asset besides your time is your energy and your vitality, right? And we want to live to 100, we want to live to 100, and we want it to be a great quality of life as we age. So these are things that I found that work for me, that are all backed by science, that really help my physical, my emotional, and my mental well-being, that I've kind of collected over the years, that I'm really passionate about and want to share with people. However, there is one that is right now the most cutting edge, the most superior, and one that I'm most excited about sharing with our audience tonight, which is called Visor. So Visor is the latest and greatest in brain health technology that uses light and sound, or frequencies and vibrations, to engage the brain in ways to ultimately keep it healthy, to keep it growing, to give it altered states of consciousness, and to leading to different overall benefits, both sleep, both long-term trait changes, from unblocking things that you just get stuck on with that monkey in your mind, to helping you stay in what we know as SATs for longer, that state akin to sleep, helping you get into that state and be there for longer before you fall asleep, as well as to help you imagine more, just learning how to imagine more regularly, practicing imagination more regularly. This device I'm so excited to share with everybody tonight, because it's actually the device that connected Josiah and I in the first place. So the story about this goes, it's a beautiful story. I'll share it briefly. I was in Hong Kong, about ready to open a biohacking center, where I was going to do anti-gravity spinal decompression, red light for recovery, as well as different types of breath work and meditation classes that were all kind of connected to using light and sound and movement to help people feel better and age more actively. Well, during that time, the 2 weeks before we were about to open, COVID hit, and the fifth wave of COVID ended up shutting down Hong Kong for 9 months. So I was devastated, because I had an investor, I had Lululemon sponsors, we had the whole thing ready with mind body scheduling, the website up. We had 90% of it ready to go. All we needed was to bring the people in, and COVID and life happens for us, right? So for anybody who listened to the last episode, you'll remember that COVID happened for me. Well, if it wasn't for that event, I would have never reconnected to my friends in Chiang Mai who are developing this technology called Visor. I call them up, they say, we're looking for somebody who wants to basically help us build relationships of partnerships and affiliates with this new technology that we're introducing to this space that uses light and sound, that helps everyday people feel better, sleep better, and improve overall mental health. So they sent me a device. I was in Hong Kong. I was sitting in my studio just like, oh, we were so close to opening this. And now everything's like getting delayed. And it was hard. You pour your heart and soul into something for 4 months in preparation, and it just all kind of crumbles and changes. Well, they sent me a device. I'm in my studio alone, like, kind of basking in like the challenges of COVID and the restrictions that were happening. I put this thing on, And in one session, my whole brain was firing and wiring in ways I've never experienced before. It was like the colors and the patterns, the honeycomb shapes and the kaleidoscope that I was able to experience. That 11-minute session completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I remember coming out of that first session, and it was like, everything's gonna work out. This all happened so that I could pick up this device and share this with the world, because if it can help me, right, it can help anybody. It's something you put on your head, you listen to a soundtrack that's synchronized with a light experience at 40 hertz, and it completely changes your state in that moment. And if you practice it, just like practicing yoga or going to the gym or, doing any other form of physical, kinesthetic exercise, you get better at it. Well, just like your body needs exercise to get stronger, so does your brain. And so as I dug deeper into this device, into the science behind it, and the years going all the way back to when people were first experiencing flickering lights on a train, as they were sitting on a train with their eyes closed. This is where it all kind of originated from. These early scientists of light flickering in front of your eyes stems back to people on a train in Europe going past the sun, and lights were flickering in front of their eyes, and how it kind of gave them a hypnagogic, or like a kind of like an out of body experience.
Wow.
So it was so life changing for me that I put it down. I called Garnet, who's the creator of, his name is Garnet Dupuis, he needs to be mentioned. He created this device, and him and his partner were basically looking for somebody to come in and help build the marketing for them. So I said, I'm in, let's go. I packed up my studio, I gave away all the yoga mats, I stored I literally gave away bags of clothes. I sold some of the hammocks that I sold the red lights that I was planning to use. And I packed up all my belongings and moved to Chiang Mai to dive into this device called Neurovizr.
So I hopped on the website here just because I wanted to give people a little bit of a frame of reference of what we're talking about here. So this is a device, the headband, and a panel of LEDs, as you can see here on the screen. Panel of LEDs that flicker at a specific rate. And of course, it's paired with a smartphone, where you're selecting the program, and then obviously you're using headphones to access the sound side of this. So it's like, to hear you describe it is one thing, but like to really see it, hopefully that kind of helps land what we're talking about. So it's compact, it's portable, it's travel friendly, right? And I think you actually have one with you, right? That you're gonna demo for us here in a minute.
We're gonna do it. I'm gonna show you how to use it. But
okay, awesome.
Like going a little bit more into like the origin, because it's such a special story where I'm in Thailand learning about neuroplasticity from like thought leaders in this space.
Yes.
A little backstory about Garnet Dupuis. He was the very first man that brought the first day spa to Los Angeles back in early 1980s, before there were ever like massage, like day spas. He wrote the curriculum for the very first massage courses out of LA, Beverly Hills, back in the early 80s. So this man he's an integrative health specialist. He's spent his past 40 years of his life, he's now in his 70s, studying consciousness. This is the guy. I look up to him like a mentor. He's incredibly smart. And for anybody who's interested, I really encourage you to go listen to one of his podcasts. He's on with Luke Story. He's done a bunch of great stuff online with his podcast. You'll need like an encyclopedia or like AI next to you to decipher some of the scientific terminology that he uses. But he's really a legend in this space because of what he's developed with this device. And so as I'm there living in the tropical jungle of Chiang Mai, like in paradise in comparison to Hong Kong, right? I'm learning about neuroplasticity and entropic brain theory and the lucid brain models, and like all these, what he talks about is like the forgotten fourth state of consciousness that we know as SATs. And I was learning about microdosing and how light and sound produce a similar type of effect on the brain that small doses of psychedelics do. I was in so much momentum. And then the guys brought me into the office one day and they said, hey, you're the US guy. We need you in LA. You're going back to America. Go see your family and bring a box of these with you so that we can expand this in the US. So I'm like, okay, perfect, let's go. I was kind of ready to be closer to family. I mean, if you've ever lived from, far away from home for a while, you get a little, you miss your fam, you miss your mom, you want to reconnect to your family. So it was kind of perfect timing. So I brought a whole suitcase of these prototype 1 devices back. And while I was in Los Angeles, I get the call from one of your colleagues at the time that said, hey, Josiah, he's a thought leader in this space, and he's interested in sharing a light experience with his audience at Menla. Send us one of your demos and maybe you can come present. So I'm like, Menla, I've heard of this place. I've always wanted to go. It's sacred. I overnight him one. He says, yes, we want this. It's gonna, it'll fit well with the concept of this retreat. There it is, prototype
Generation 1. Okay, so this is like very early in the process of development. Yep. This is what I got overnighted to me from Tamer. Hey, check out this device, see what you think. Would love to come present it to your people. Yeah. Right? So this is it's upgraded leaps and bounds now. You were showing me the new one. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, that was the original device. Yes.
That's the original one. And that's what I literally packed an entire suitcase full of. Started working with a clinic in LA. And what was so special about that was that they were real healers and doctors that found that this was the only light device that they could accessibly bring into their clinic that was moving the needle after they were scanning people's blood. Their blood was more cohesive. It was moving the needle in terms of how they were able to get some of these patients with like serious PTSD, like the vets with PTSD that they were working on. This was the thing that was helping them sleep at night. Some of the people that had all sorts of really tough, degenerative, diseases that were coming to the clinic for, the healers at that clinic, people should know, it's called Just Hope. I worked with them for a while, and I was so inspired to see how many people this little light and sound device was helping, that I immediately said, like, this is a huge chapter of my life. I want to take this and share this and impact as many brains as I can with this, because I've literally seen like people in the very far end of the spectrum. I'm talking like people with PTSD, people with severe anxiety, severe depression, bipolar, people with, challenging, even like, just remarkable healing that they were able to promote with starting the sessions with Visor. Because what it did is it just got them out of their fight or flight mode. Yeah, there's Justin. He's still a good friend of mine. So it got people out of their fight or flight mode, and then anything they were doing after, the patients were so much more receptive to. So when I was seeing that in this little clinic, and then Josiah called me and he's like, "Hey, come to Menla." I'm like, I'm on to something here. I'm in momentum right now. Like we're good. Something's about to break through. And little did I know, upon arriving in New York City, my now wife would show up at my doorstep, called to the retreat to also, work hand in hand with Josiah and the people putting it on, to the point that it was the greatest blessing that's ever come to my life. And it all kind of happened because I made the bold move to say yes, to step out of my comfort zone, to embrace the uncertainty of change, to move out of Hong Kong, to go to Chiang Mai, to go back to the US, to say yes to Josiah, to that moment of like seeing people get completely transformed and healed by using light and sound, knowing that something's about to happen, knowing that I was using it every single day to like prime my brain, using it as like an imagination tool, as I was sharing in the last episode, to manifest my perfect dream wife, right? And boom, it just landed on my doorstep like Amazon Prime. So that happened. And a lot of it was due to the fact that I was regularly going into SATs, regularly priming my brain, regularly improving the chemistry of my brain using light and sound. And I mean, it's the greatest gift because now I have Angela and Leo because of it.
Yes. Yes. That's phenomenal. So
So I
hold
have
on,
to share that story because without Neurovizr, it would not have led me to you, which would have not have led me to meeting my wife. And we took a break from it. We're like, I told the guys, I'm like, hey, thank you. I need to take a break. My wife and I need to go travel. We're going to get married. We're going to go honeymoon and kind of around the world with a baby and back. Turns out they need somebody right now who's based in the US again to help continue to grow partnerships and create relationships. And so I've said yes again, and I've jumped back into this ecosystem of sharing, giving people brain breaks with Neurovizr.
okay. So the origin story is quite amazing, how you came to interact with this device. But there's something in particular you said that really grabbed my attention. So you're telling me that literally using a light panel with flickering light and sound produced measurable changes in the blood before and after, according to these
Yes.
researchers.
Yes.
Okay.
Those
So
people I just spoke have a clinical study, like a study they did as doctors and scientists on people with PTSD and severe, like really challenging mental health called, diseases or disorders or just mental health things that were really impacting their well-being. 75% of people, after they did all the data, fell asleep in their first session. Every single one of the people reported they felt better afterward. After they measured the blood, they found that the blood was more cohesive under the microscope after getting their bodies out of that fight or flight mode and into more of a calm, where they're in that theta, almost asleep state.
yes.
How the cohesiveness of the blood was more easy and even. Remarkable science behind this thing, and
very
all
remarkable. Yes.
flickering lights at a specific frequency with sound at a certain vibration. Unbelievable.
Okay, so this is where we talk a little bit about the power of light and sound, and in particularly this concept of frequency following response. But also, you gave a new keyword, a new kind of a new term for this, and it's really something that Neurovizr is leaning into. This idea of brain signal variability. So you were explaining before we went live. We all have heard the term HRV. Heart rate variability. All of us are familiar that that's a thing that can be measured, and there's all kinds of links to health and well-being and even state of being from HRV. What is BSV?
Just like heart rate variability can be measured, so can the brain. With EEGs and a wide variety of different ways that you scan the brain, you can now see these little areas of brain fluctuations from, like, imagine complete chaos and uncertainty and disorder, and where you're like 100% anxious and hyper, and it's like that's the high end, to absolute deep asleep. There is now science that backs this new field called brain signal variability and how it can be measured. And the key thesis of this whole field of science is that when new stimulus interacts with your brain, a healthy brain is one that can change when change is necessary, right? So when something comes at you, you're driving, you're exercising, something happens, the healthiest brains are the ones that have the widest variability of brain signals to be able to change when change is necessary. And the scientists that are on the board at Visor are basically owning this new keyword. We're making it like our big science push to share this really exciting new field of neuroscience with the community and the world, essentially. Because if you can bring awareness to brain signal variability, and that the brain can be measured similarly like the heart can based on heart rate variability, and we can empower people that a healthy brain is one that can change, and to give them a tool of how, by using light and sound, you can physically rewire your brain to be one that responds more efficiently to new stimuli, we can have a tremendous impact on people's lives, especially in mental health.
Okay. All right. I feel like this is so rich. There's so much here to really dig into and to understand. But really, I think for me, it came down to experiencing it for myself. It came down to like really putting it on and having the experiencing the flickering light, experiencing the sound, experiencing the entrainment, and really from an observer perspective, watching, the watcher, right? The doer, like the kind of watching what's happening to the physiology, watching my brain wave shift, watching my brain state shift to follow the stimulation from the flickering light. There is a little bit of audio as well, and it's like the two together to really like create change, like you're saying. And if we think about, there's so much we could say here, and some of it gets a little bit esoteric, but like really our life is the way that our brains are, right? So when our brains are monkey mind is taken over and we're super disorganized in our thinking and have trouble focusing, right? It's like that's when our workspaces become very cluttered and disorganized, and it's like we literally push out the state of our internal being, right? So if we're feeling stuck, it's because our brain is stuck. And I think that's like the key way to kind of ground this idea of, hey, one of the key measures of health is the ability of the brain to change, the neuroplasticity. So what I hear you saying here, Tamer, is this is a device that is really designed and developed to introduce stimulation to the brain that is novel, that actually creates a neuroplasticity response to start to kind of, if flipping upside down is creating, an elongation and more flexibility in the spine, this is a similar thing, but brought to the level of brainwave patterns and brainwave states. It's like by providing this stimulation, it's kind of like flipping your brain upside down and kind of spreading it out a little bit and enabling it to kind of shift and have a new experience. But then that's also triggering this neuroplasticity, which then allows the brain to become more flexible and more responsive to stimuli and input.
Yes. I love the way that you just described that. And there's another piece of science around neuroplasticity that I want people to know, and that is you can increase neuroplasticity by 4 key things. You have to have all 4. You have to have focused attention. You have to be focused on something that draws your attention. You have to be willing to do it, like an openness and a willingness to try. It has to be something novel, like something almost like you've never done it before, like the beginner's mind, like something new. And it has to produce some form of like joy. It has to be fun, right?
Okay.
So great ways of expanding neuroplasticity besides light and sound are language learning. If you've ever studied a language, like when I was learning Mandarin in Taiwan, I felt like my brain was firing in a whole new world because I would have to learn basically how to communicate in a new language, right? Other great ways are learning instruments. Like jazz musicians, they are in what's called the sweet spot of brain signal variability because all of their brains are working in harmony to produce these improv flow state, like beautiful sounds that all synchronize together. And as we study more about brain signal variability, we can even connect it to different types of group experiences where now team building and relationship counseling and other like corporate C-level executives that need to be able to make sharp decisions. Now there's this whole integration of brain signal variability within group settings. So the science is so fascinating. And I think for everyday, listeners, know that neuroplasticity is something that your brain, it's basically how your brain wires and creates new pathways as you adapt to new stimuli. So instruments or learning a new exercise or learning a new language, these are all ways that your brain expands and creates new synaptic connections. Well, with light and sound, the special thing about it is now you can change the way that you can change the brain towards a desired outcome, right? My desired outcome is I want my brain to know that when it's time to go to sleep, part of its natural circadian, it sleeps better every night, right? Because we've forgotten this state of consciousness between awake and sleep. Like we talk about it at SATS. Well, a lot of people, SATS takes practice. It takes like holding that state of consciousness and practicing that state of consciousness and not going to sleep, right? Well, now we have something that gets you into SATS within seconds, because now it forces your attention. You're open to trying it. It's something new because there's lights and sound and it's just fun. And afterward, it's like, whoa, I was just deep in a completely new dimension for 10 minutes. And half the time people fall asleep while doing it, and that's okay too. But it's that 5 minutes that you're in SATS now with a device that turns it on immediately, that for any follower of Neville or anybody who's practicing imagination towards creating reality, it's an absolute must. It's an absolute must try, at least for, the 30 days to give it a go, to experience how light and sound, when directed towards a vector that you want in your life, like better sleep or better mood or better focus, can really make a profound impact. And one of the ways that I'm using it right now, and there's so much cool science around, is called microdosing. So microdosing is a whole new form of basically neuroplastic change, where we're using a small compound of, in many ways, it's ketamine. You've heard of ketamine treatments, or psilocybin, small bits of mushrooms, small bits of LSD. And these psychedelics are actually, that the science pushes the brain into that non-ordinary state where change can happen. Well, guess what? You can do the same now with light and sound. And the psychedelic research academies in Vancouver and the top people at these schools of research panels in San Francisco, like across the board, people who are studying how psychedelics and microdosing is healthy and good for us are all turning to Visor now, because you don't have to ingest any compound. So it takes away like the uncertainty and like this kind of the intimidation factor of having to take something and I don't know, it's a psychedelic, I'm afraid. Now you can give your brain a similar experience with light and sound. So that is just so super cool. Like the drug-free microdosing play is what a lot of the top biohackers in the space now are sharing on their social media, right? If you go to Dave Asprey or if you go to Ben Greenfield, they all basically use it as their way of giving their brain that non-ordinary state that a psychedelic produces, but without having to take any compound. It's that logic, that out of body, that like for anybody who's done ceremony and you've been in the DMT type of experience of how, like what that does in your brain and in that moment, light and sound can do the same thing. So there's a lot of exciting stuff to unpackage there, but I'm just so thrilled to share it with people and really passionate about it. So
really cool. Let's hit a couple of questions here in the chat that I think are a lot of people can relate to. So Elena's saying, I'd love to hear more about the difference between the device and something like VR, because for example, Elena says, I've been using some wellness VR experiences like Trip and Liminal VR, which have been life-changing, and I love learning about this stuff. So what, just to highlight a couple of key differences.
If you don't mind, I want to actually just show a quick demo of what this is so that people can see it firsthand.
Let's do it. Yeah.
First of all, like Trip, if you have like the Meta Quest, that is such a great app. It's really, really fun. I also really enjoy that VR experience. But the difference is with what I'm about to share with you with Visor, it is the flickering light frequency at 40 hertz. And if you just do a quick Google search, 40 hertz brain, 40 hertz Alzheimer's, 40 hertz dementia, 40 hertz is the hertz that the brain responds to and helps kind of open up these new pathways. So it's the light and the sound vibration. The light frequency and the sound vibration are designed specifically with this product that are a little bit different than, like, say, for example, a VR experience. Okay, so let's dive in. So the first thing that First thing is to share with you is what's called the Neurovizr.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a light box. Sorry,
Yep, it's the green screen. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So you have a light box.
Yep.
That connects to a headset that goes on your head.
Okay.
So this is what it looks like when you have it on. Okay. There are 9 lights, and there's a headset you charge it with a USB cord, and this light box connects to your app. So through your mobile app on your Android or iOS, I don't know if you can see it. Nope.
No. Yeah.
So you're going to connect the light box to the app. So let's do it. We're going to turn it on. It connects via Bluetooth. So you'll make sure that you have your Bluetooth device that synchronizes to your headset. Okay. Once it's connected, we also recommend that you use, it's the best experience is when you have headphones on. So you put on some headphones. Headphones can plug in or they can be Bluetooth. Okay. You'll go into one of the library collections that you have in the app. So a few of them we have our meditation, we have our mind states, we have our neuroathletics. Here we have better sleep, our microdose, and our brain. So you'll choose one of the sessions that you want for ways you want your brain to experience. The ones that I'm loving lately are the neuroathletics because I'm doing it before and after my weight training.
Mm-hmm.
And the other cool ones in here are what's called brain optimizer. So for people who are aware of getting the brain into like theta states or theta healing, you have all of that in what's called a brain dehabituator. So if you can dehabituate the brain from beta, right, where we're awake or we're too caffeinated, and you can drop it a little bit lower into alpha and then into theta, you can have some really profound effects on the brain. So you'll choose basically what session you want to do. I'll just turn on one for demo purposes. You'll adjust the light setting. So I've been using it for a while, so I like it very bright. But for sometimes when you first start, you want to maybe go a little lighter. You can also choose what breath experience you want. So there's an introduction, like a warm-up breathing, and a cool-down breath work. So the app has within it like a breath work. You'll press play, and the lights will go. So now, sound vibration and the light frequencies are synchronized together to produce this type of outcome. In this case, I'm doing it for my neuroathletics, like pre-workout. The sessions are designed to be 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes long based on what session you choose. You'll sit back, you'll close your eyes and you'll relax. You'll breathe and you'll just allow the beauty to unfold as the sounds come to life. And within just 10 to 20 seconds, you're right in that fourth state.
So I want to point out something there. Maybe those of you who are watching the stream were able to see it. So when Tamer put the device over his eyes, the way that the LEDs are set up, it goes over the bridge of the nose. This isn't actually an important point because I have another style of light device that is not mounted on the head. It actually, you lay under it. You put it on a big tripod. It's not travel friendly. It's a whole production, but you lay under it and it's far enough away from the face that you don't get the gap on the bridge of the nose. And the reason why that is important is because with the Neurovizr, it can actually stimulate the left eye and stimulate the right eye separately. And let me tell you, having had experiences with the big device that doesn't have that, and then experiencing Neurovizr that does have that ability, it is a different level of brain stimulation. And the first time I tried the Neurovizr, that was immediately what I noticed. I was like, whoa, it can actually like just get my left eye input or just get my right eye input and then go back and forth and then do both together. It was, let me tell you, it was an intense experiencing an intense difference from other devices that I've tried.
Yes. And so those three things we call that. You have the macro, where it's like the broad, all the lights. You have the micro, which where it like kind of hones in on like the one in front of your third eye. And then you have the meso, which is how it goes back and forth.
Okay.
That's what's really unique about visors. We have all three in terms of how flickering lights and how they're programmed to change the experience of the stimulus.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so macro, micro, and meso are all built into each one of the light sessions that synchronize with the sound. So the light and the soundscape go together, and to basically produce any desired outcome that you want based on what's in the app category.
Yes.
So it's cool, man. And it's still very early. Like, for everybody who's learning about it now, learn about it now, because in 1 year from now, there's going to be so much more science and so much more, like so many more users. And even, more upgrades to the technology and more app renditions, and, down the road, just kind of teasing everybody. Imagine when you go to a concert, like you go to like a concert with flickering lights, like you watch a live band and there's lights and there's sound. It's crazy. Close your eyes. And now imagine your favorite Pink Floyd song, or your favorite soundtrack coming to life with Visor. So the integration of music with it, the integration with guided meditations. Like, imagine you listen to your favorite Joe Dispenza meditation and it comes to life, or your favorite Neville, audio, and it comes to life, and you're in that state, and you're listening, and you're learning, and your brain is getting all the stimulus from the light and sound. There's really, really cool stuff coming with this technology. So I can't wait to see how it evolves. And the fact that you're listening to this now, you guys are still part of like the early phase of growth with where it's at. So it's really
Yes. Okay, so there's an interesting question in the chat here that I want to address. This comes from Oksana, a channel member. She goes, I just wonder if this is controversial with Neville's teaching from his Pearl of Great Price lecture. We should know that I am is enough to heal ourselves and live a healthy life. So I appreciate this question, because obviously the Pearl of Great Price is an important teaching. And the way that I've come to understand this is that there is a wide variety of bridges of incidence. And through our vivid imagination, we have manifested all kinds of different tools and techniques and modalities that we get to explore. And to me, like, I think that's really cool. And so when I think about like, okay, so for example, I had a health condition that I was really struggling with back in, well, really it was a chronic condition. So it was with me for many years. And when I learned about Neville, I was currently suffering from this health condition. And learning about Neville was the first time that I started to imagine what would life be like if I didn't have this chronic health condition. Okay. So when I started to imagine what life would be like and what I would feel like if I woke up every morning and was free, like if I was full of vitality, I was free, I was, radiant health, what would that feel like? Okay. So I really started to get clear on that. And then the bridge of incidents began, and it started with yoga teacher training. And I began to get access to modalities. My whole lifestyle changed. I started learning to move my body. I started learning to breathe. I started learning to heal myself. I started learning how to shift my brainwave states. I started learning about all kinds of tools and techniques. So I changed to become the person who was aligned with the state of health and vitality. So basically what I'm saying is I think things like this can fit into a state of being. Like, maybe I'm the type of person who, as part of my expression of health, wellness, and vitality, I explore things like consciousness technology. Now, obviously, Tamer and I, we're passionate about technology. We get kind of geeked out about these things. Obviously, we understand that not everybody is going to, and maybe this doesn't align with everyone's states, but it's still something that I think is interesting to examine and to explore. And I think they're, keeping an open mind and being curious about it. I think there's definitely something to be said for that. So I just wanted to address that question, because I think it's important. I think it's also interesting way to kind of kind of frame it and understand how it can all work together and come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, actually. And you know what? My response to that question, I thank you for, I think Roxana who asked that, is when you can get to that center of that I am center, when you can unpackage the layers of life and all of that, right? Everybody, it's such a subjective journey of transformation that getting to that center of I am, sometimes people never get there. So if we can help them, right? If we can just give them something to help them, maybe just take off one extra layer of that onion peel, help them get a little bit closer to that place of imagining and creating and getting more closely connected to that I am of pure joy and love, then we can impact and help more people, right? So, helping people with unpackaging the layers of life and their challenges and whatever it is that's causing them to in any way suffer is, in my opinion, I think it's worth exploring, because sometimes all it takes is helping people change their state. And if I can help somebody change their state with a 5-minute light and sound session, and if that's the thing that maybe leads them closer to their I am, then I feel good about that. I feel like I helped somebody. And that's really what we're here to do. We're here to expand consciousness, and we're here to help and serve. So the more people we can uplift along the way and get them closer to that center, the better. And of course, introducing them to the teachings of Neville. Like, guys, these teachings are so ancient that thank you for what Josiah is doing, because he's bringing awareness to this. Not many people are aware of these teachings. So it first takes the awareness of what these teachings are in order to be able to unpackage those layers to get there without using any other technology or tools. So really appreciate it.
Yeah. I want to shout out Shweta. Hi, Shweta. She's in the chat. She says, completely agree. Tools can help a lot, and you can always make the tools your own if they resonate. So you can kind of like take ownership. And as Tamer said in the very beginning, the most important biohacking technique is the one that works for you. That's the secret.
Like, what's the best exercise out of all the workouts?
The one that works for you.
Yeah, the one you do.
The one you do, yes, and do consistently. That's definitely the best. Yes. Okay. All right. So I think at this point in the stream, this is a great time. Now that we've really started to understand a little bit, and I know there's so much further we can go down this rabbit hole, but we understand a little bit about what this device is and what it can unlock. And so what I'd like to get into is some of the miracle outcomes that you've observed. But before you tell that story, I want to announce to all of our Neville and Chill friends here in the Polyverse that Neurovizr has agreed to give away a Neurovizr device and a lifetime subscription. Okay, so this is a big deal because they actually stopped selling Neurovizr with a lifetime subscription. So you actually can't get that. They're sold out. But Neurovizr has agreed to give away a Neurovizr and a lifetime subscription to the app and all of the updates that are coming and everything to someone who watched this live stream. So the way that you get access to this giveaway, you have to join the Discord. And once you join the Discord, in the announcements and also pinned in the Neville and Chill chat, there is a Google form where you can enter the giveaway. In addition to giving away the fancy Neurovizr device, Tamer has also generously agreed to give away 2 30-minute consultations. You get him one-on-one. 2 of you will get him one-on-one for 30 minutes to talk about whatever's going on in your life, whatever unique challenges you might have, whatever questions you have about health and wellness, or anything he's talked about in the stream, or maybe even with his permission, you can pick his brain on his love story a little bit and maybe, get some insights into how to shift your state if you feel like that's something you resonate with. I mean, we've had a little bit of time with him now, so we understand a little bit about what he brings to the table. So he's generously agreed to give away 2 of those sessions. So we have 3 prizes we're giving away. And again, you have to join the Discord, go to that Google form, enter in your information. We're going to be doing that giveaway as a drawing. We'll announce the winner. on Monday. So you have a couple of days. So if you're watching the replay and you're looking at your watch, you're like, oh my goodness, did I miss it? If it's before December 2nd, you still have a chance to win. And I'm just, first of all, thank you, Tamer. I know you went to bat for us like, hey, Neurovizr, will you do this for the Neville and Chill community? And so thank you for doing that. And also thank you for generously offering your time to our community as well.
Absolutely. I'm so honored to be able to share this with, and for one lucky winner to be able to win a lifetime access to one of these devices. Plus, you know, I'm a big believer that proximity is power, right? And when you surround yourself with great people, and if you want to go further faster, sometimes you just learn from people who have done what maybe you want to do, or you ask the questions to, people who you want to, emulate. Like, we want to be like people who are similar to us or who we want to be like. So when Josiah asked if I'd do a couple 30-minute coaching sessions, I was like, absolutely. If there's a community I want to serve, it's the one that he's cultivated. So looking forward to the giveaway. Make sure you join the Discord and fill out the form so that we can really show up and make some magic happen for your life.
Very cool. All right. So Tamer, with that, I am very curious to hear some of the miracle stories that you've experienced, miracle outcomes using this device in particular, because I know you've worked with veterans. I know you've given demos of this all over the world. What are some of the just really inspiring stories you have to share with us about what this device in particular, the outcomes you've observed?
Yeah, and I have to start with the most important person in my life, and that is my wonderful wife, Angela.
Shout out to Angela. We love you, Angela. I know you're watching. Hi.
And it was such an incredible outcome and experience that she had with this device that it needs to be the first one shared. And it was right around the time when we were both kind of on our way to Menlo. We were on our way to the retreat. I think she was down in Florida. I was in California. She was given the device as a try this out type of moment by one of the Joachim, who was at the retreat as well, and he was holding some space for the group as well as one of he brings in a wonderful background and also kind of holds space as a healer type of say. So he gave Angela a visor experience. She lied down, she did the 11-minute session, and during that 11-minute session, she was able to connect to her late father's higher self, his spirit. She tells the story in a way that it was so profound that it brings shivers to my body every time I hear it. But it was the moment that she was finally able to consciously release his higher self from being the most important male figure in her life, for her to say, thank you, Dad. I'm now ready to step into my marriage. And literally 3 days later, she met me. So that moment of when she was deep in that fourth state, deep in that experience of her visor session, the first time that she's done it, that led her to connecting to her father's spirit. And for her to have that conversation with him in a way that was so releasing. And it was almost like she didn't know that she was holding on to him still. She was subconsciously still holding on to him as the most important, man in her life. Yeah. He had only died a few years earlier. And for her to have that reconnection with him, say, thank you, I love you, I let you go, I'm now ready for my marriage. And for 3 days later, for her to meet me. And then a week later, for her to know that I'm the man that she's, was going to marry, was really, really special. And I really love that story because it changed her brain and her life in one session. And it allowed her to connect to, her late father's higher self and have that profound healing. So that's the first one that needs to be shared, because for everybody who heard her, really special podcast with you a couple episodes ago, how just vibrant and amazing of a woman she is. Well, this was a stepping stone, one of the bridges of incidences that led her to be able to step into the new identity that she was manifesting, which was being a wife. So that's the first one that I love sharing, because for any ladies out there that are using your imagination to manifest to embody the wish fulfilled, you never know. Maybe your brain just needs a little bit of light and sound to help you get there.
I want to call out the idea you gave us earlier about brain breaks, right? So it's like what information or insight or state shift can you create space for by taking a little brain break, right? Because like, okay, so again, your brain really operating in patterns, and then you get this novel stimulus that most of us, the first time we put on a device, like, it's there's no other experience that we've had similar to this. It's completely novel. So really opening up that window, and then in that space, what can come through? So for her, in that space, what came through was this profound opportunity for healing. And I think that's essentially the template of all of the miraculous healing experiences you're about to share with us. Is it's like creating that space, and then what comes through when we have that space. That's the template.
Yes, exactly. And often, more times than not, all we need for healing to happen is for our brain to get out of its fight or flight, panic, overly stimulated, caffeinated, staring at, too much on our mobile phone, too much in this world of angst. We live in a world of angst. And when you can just give yourself 10 minutes of complete relaxation, and where your brain drops out of its beta into, low alpha theta, so much healing can come from giving your body and your brain that type of experience. So that segueing into this second most profound miracle that I saw was, he was a veteran in his probably late 50s, still like in good shape guy, came into our clinic in LA. And I was the man that was responsible for doing visor sessions with people before they would then go do their healing with Justin and the doctor. Mm-hmm. This man, like, incredible, like, look, he was in Iraq. He served in Iraq. He was a veteran. Watched his brother, like one of his dear friends, get like blown up by some explosion. Watched his dear friend just die. Came in, could tell he hadn't slept was suffering from severe PTSD, had trouble sleeping. The doctors wanted to give him all sorts of sleep remedies, all the drugs. Nothing was actually helping him heal, until he came into Just Hope. He started doing visor sessions. He bought one. He started taking it home. He started using it before bed. He came back, I think it was 1 week later, and he said, I will never take another pharmaceutical drug again. I have my whole brain is completely shifted into now I can sleep every single night without the same night terrors and like that just trauma that his brain was dealing with. And it was almost like overnight, you saw this whole man's aura, this whole man's persona, his whole being completely shifted from like really a heavy trauma and lack of sleep, which is like one of the most key things for good health is quality of sleep, to vibrant. His eyes were twinkling. He came in, he gave me the biggest hug. Like, he picked me up in his arms and just said, thank you. You have no idea. He was about to, if I felt like I was like being broken by some giant army guy. And he said, thank you. This thing changed my life. I will forever be grateful for what this machine has done for me. And it was in that moment, like, this was a guy that I just met, brought into the clinic, put on the Just Let Go. It's like one of our sleep sessions. He fell asleep during the session, bought one, started using it at home. A week later came back and said he'll never use any form of drugs again to sleep. And he was able to, and then the miraculous part even more so is that the healers were able to scan the brain and find that those areas of trauma in the brain that are seen under MRIs as like kind of dark, like splotches, were more just smooth, and everything was a little bit more cohesive. So like that was just really, like, we did the aura cam on him, they did the brain scan on him, and his whole entire brain and being was healed by giving it the right light and sound stimulus.
So that's a awesome story and so inspiring, especially for those of us that you know can really really relate to some of the trauma that people go through. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening there. So this is my understanding, and I want you to kind of fill in to kind of help me round out my understanding. My understanding is that when we experience severe trauma, and that can look like what this veteran went through, that can look like a lot of things, right? Trauma is really subjective. No one else can tell you that you've had a traumatic experience. Like, it's really like anything for you can be traumatic. It's about how your system interprets an event.
Yeah.
When we have a trauma experience, it can be such a loud signal in our brain that it ends up patterning our brain. And our brain, because it's such a high amplitude experience, our brain can actually get stuck and not necessarily be able to return to baseline after having such, like, you know, it's like when you have a still pond and you take a huge rock and you like drop it into the pond, like the pond gets really chaotic. But in this case, rather than the pond returning to stillness, it can just get stuck in a loop where basically you're replaying the trauma, and it feels like it's happening now, even though it was, you know, time shifted in the past. It feels like it's happening now. And so this can be torment. You know, people who have experienced profound trauma can live in just perpetual torment. And so what Neurovizr, in my understanding, is doing is Neurovizr is introducing a novel stimuli that is basically disrupting that pattern of that was created by the trauma, and creating a window, a brain break, where there's suddenly a stimulus that is louder than the old pattern. And that opens a little window for the brain to get access to this process of neuroplasticity. And by opening that little window, it's like giving the brain a breath, which can activate the ability to heal and let go of that trauma pattern and create the opportunity through neuroplasticity to create new patterns, which is what is now allowing him to sleep. Okay, so that's my understanding. Can you kind of fill me in on there? Make sure I'm
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. That was a great interpretation. You know, like you said, it's very subjective, and you get stuck in that feedback loop from hell, and it can be just absolute torment. And you know, to be able to give somebody something that disrupts that pattern, where they can remember that and they can go back to that, and then they can consistently work towards keeping that window open, because they no longer want to live in that pain. They no longer want to suffer. They want to change. The brain changes what matters. And when you give it the right stimuli, that window, you can smash through that window. You never have to go back. You can rewire your brain. And like, that's what's so empowering about these types of biohacks, is it empowers people, now gives the power back to the people to take care of their health.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that, it was just like, guys, I don't care who you are. You can benefit from lying down for 5 minutes, or if you have the 10 minutes, I don't care who you are. If you have the time to lie down and experience a beautiful soundscape with some lights flickering, it can change your life. So as I segue into the third one, it's similar to trauma. I mean, this one's really close to me, and it's my youngest sister, who has, from a young age, from 12 years old, when my mom and dad got divorced, that was a traumatic incident for her, and she got stuck in the 12-year-old. Well, going through, you know, the divorce at a young age, and then meeting with the wrong boyfriend led her into a drug addiction. And by pretty much 18 years old, she had a severe opioid addiction to heroin. And in and out of rehabs, and in and out of clinics, and in and out of jails. And like, it's been absolute misery for her for the past decade. And to, you know, as her older brother, it's been just so hard to have, for anybody who has an addict in the family, or anybody who's had family members that struggle from drug and alcohol addiction, you know how just it's so painfully hard, because you want to do everything in your power to help, but there's nothing you can really do. until they're ready for healing. So I get back home. This is about the same time frame that I got back from Thailand, and I'm in LA, and I was spending some time with my sister who lives in Santa Barbara, and I had the visors with me. And I knew after learning from Garnet that this is a pattern interrupter, and that if you can dehabituate the brain from it craving something, in this case a drug addiction, to wanting to change, you can actually help. You can disrupt the pattern and you can make change. And an outcome would be to help her get off the drugs, essentially break the pattern, break the habit. Well, for that time that we were living together, instead of her reaching for the opioid, I gave her the device. I said, put this on. She literally, her brain was craving it. It's almost like it was so depleted from dopamine. It was so over dopamine. Like, we talk about, like, we have way too much exposure to dopamine now in this age of angst. It was like so overly stimulated that it craved that state of just nothingness, of that SATS state that her brain pretty much never experienced until she did Visor. We put this on, she fell asleep. She woke up crying, like whatever that was, I wanted again. It was like this, almost like this unbelievable, like, yearning that she knew she needed to be reaching for instead of the drug. She started doing it every single day. She started reaching for the Visor. It was that short window of time that she was like completely clean and sober. She started getting her life back in order. It was like a miraculous moment for me to see how someone with a severe addiction could almost overnight reach for something new because they knew they wanted that new outcome. They knew they wanted to be free from the drugs. They were ready to let it go. They were ready and willing to have a new life. And they found something that gave them the brain state that they was yearning for so long, but they just never knew how to access it. And every time after, she would just cry and just sob and say, "Thank you, Tamer. Thank you so much for bringing this into my life. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you." And it was something that, during that time, it was really just a special moment that I got to have with her, to see her start to shift out of the craving the drugs into craving the light. And if it can help my sister who had a heavy drug addiction, now she's in rehab, she's in her program, her kids are healthier and back with her. Like, there's so much improvement has come from what happened, the 2 years ago, and kind of the ups and downs. And now her life's like back on track. She's in her program, she's going to her classes, she's now like out of the weeds. And I honestly believe that it was that really, really important time frame that I got to have with her, where she was able to access that state. And now she knows from her classes about breath work and meditation, and she goes to her yoga class and she keeps her body healthy and moving and reaching for that similar state that light and sound vibrations can produce. So if it can help a drug addiction and somebody with PTSD, and my wife, who is just an ultimate manifester, like, the whole spectrum is there for people who we can serve. And so I love being able to share some of those miracle stories with the audience.
That's beautiful. Yes. And I think this whole idea of you use the term dehabituating, or really creating a break in the stuckness, a break in that pattern that, sometimes people just, they need that little additional assistance to break that broken record of, whether it's addiction or of trauma or of, whatever it is, just that little, skip the needle, right? Just skip it over, skip it over to a new track, be able to have that opportunity to, like, create a new experience. And that can just, as you're sharing some of these outcomes, it's just, that's really powerful and really beautiful. And, as students of imagination, we understand how powerful our consciousness is, but it's like, everything is important. Like, it can be hard to imagine when our body is feeling pain, right? If our physical body is suffering, like, that can mean that our emotional, and our mental space is suffering. And then that can make it, challenging or difficult to reach profound, states of consciousness or shift brainwave patterns. And this is a device that can assist with that. And what I love about it is that, like you're calling it, drug free, you're just using light and sound. But I've also, just some of the education that I have in some of these other spaces, things like psilocybin, things like ketamine, they have a similar effect, but all of that involves ingesting substances. This is going to, I think I remember vaguely you talking about first languages. It's like the first language, of our awareness is really light and sound. It's like anything that we see, that's light. And then hearing is very innately connected. It's one of our fundamental senses, obviously. So, instead of ingesting a substance, although that is a valid, I'm not diminishing that as a modality in any way. I'm just saying there's something novel and unique about using something so primary as light and sound to induce these pattern interrupts.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
And you talk about first language, and we can go down that rabbit hole, but just very briefly, our first form of light was fire and lightning.
Yes.
Go back. Our first, we would live in caves with darkness for days, and the hieroglyphics and the paintings and the things that people were inscribing with stone and walls, and a lot of it looks very hypnagogic. It looks very out of this world, and a lot of that is because of go into a dark cave for 10 days and do one of those meditation retreats, and your brain will produce a very hypnagogic, almost like a very hallucinogenic type of physical experience. So when you can give your brain the light and sound, or we call it first language, which is light, frequency, and sound vibration, you really can give yourself that innate those innate states that have been long forgotten. So let's
hit a couple of questions here. Okay, so Elena's saying, do you notice a difference on days you use it versus days you don't? So I'm going to answer this from my perspective, having had some experience with the Neurovizr. I would say both yes and no. It's definitely when I'm in the experience, I'm definitely having an experience, I'm very present to the experience, it's stimulation, right? And then coming out of it, I notice I'm in a little bit of a different state. But where I am with it, I don't necessarily feel the need to use it every day. I kind of supplement where I am on my journey with it right now. I supplement it a couple times a week. There is, however, the microdosing modality. It's an actual routine that gives you different levels of stimulation every day. And I did about 4 months where I was doing it every day. So I think maybe because I built my brain and my reaction and my experience with the device over a long period of time, maybe now I'm at the point where I can supplement as opposed to doing it every day. So hopefully that, Tamer, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I'll just add that it's kind of like the gym. Do you notice days when you don't work out your body? Kind of, a little bit, right? Well, it's the same for your brain. Your brain needs the same type of exercise as your body does. And so if you might not notice, if you miss going to your Pilates or your yoga or your gym, you might not notice a huge difference, but by doing it, you will definitely produce a more positive potential for change, right? The best workout is the one you do, right? So if you do a little workout every day, you'll see compounding results over time. Well, the same is true with your brain. If you just do 5-minute session every day, you'll see compounding results over time, and you'll get into this conscious momentum, I like calling it, where you are able to create your reality almost at light speed because you are in that momentum of conscious creation. Where I'll go in, I'll close my eyes, I will visualize I'll go into my imagination and see exactly how I want the next day, the next week, this project that I'm working on to come to fruition, and kaboom, it's almost like overnight. These experiences are starting to take shape in our reality. And for anybody who listened to Angela, she's a unicorn of teaching this type of content. It's an incredible way of being able to decipher it and help people understand it. And I'm novice in comparison to her level. But what I have found is that by giving my brain this 5 to 11-minute session, just a little bit every day, and going into my imagination and assuming the wish fulfilled, like I have that tattooed on my forehead. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Well, sometimes you don't know what it feels like until you actually get the lights and sound hitting your physiology. And then you feel the joy, you feel the knowledge, you feel the excitement, you feel the love, and then kaboom, the conscious momentum of what you're creating, it just takes off. And it's almost like I have this one miraculous story where I was on my way to New York. I was actually on my way to go for the retreat, but beforehand, it was in the middle of a sales cycle and I was working on commission. So I'm like, I'm just going to manifest, create, use my imagination. I'm going to pull in from this experience a $10,000 check so that I can go have the next 2 months in New York taken care of. So I just don't have to worry about food and expenses and, living conditions. I go in, I put on the Just Let Go soundtrack. I go for the 11 minutes. I see the $10,000 check written with my name, with the Chase Bank on it. I see my boss handing it to me. I feel the feeling of joy as I'm jumping up and down in my car and celebrating. But I go through the drama, right? Assuming the feeling of that wish fulfilled, and I'm doing that as I'm under my visor session. Kid you not, I come out of the session, walk out of the door of the clinic, go into a meeting with the owner of the clinic, and he said, oh, by the way, we want to give you a bonus so that you can go enjoy your summer in New York. Here's a $10,000 check. Right there, instantly. It was almost like I created the exact moment 10 minutes before, lying on the bed, doing my Just Let Go session and consciously creating conscious momentum for the outcome that I wanted, which was some form of, physical reality of having a $10,000 check. Mm-hmm. That happened real life in LA right before I met Josiah in New York. And, it was like one of those things. Okay, well, if I can create a $10,000 check, how about a $100,000? What about $1 million? What are the limits on this thing? It's limitless. Yeah. Your consciousness is limitless. It's what can you feel so natural? What can be this natural state of embodying that wish? You are that, right? So that your identity molds into that conscious reality of who you are, and it just feels natural. So when I close my eyes and I'm creating something, it is boom, like almost overnight. And so someone who is, again, I'm not at Josiah or Angela's level of this education, but I do have tools that allow me to unlock these areas of consciousness that have just allowed me to create an extraordinary quality of life. I mean, it's miraculous what your brain and your consciousness can do when given the right outcome, the right conscious outcome that you want to create. So
beautiful. So if you're just joining us, we are talking with Tamer, who has a long history in biohacking and has really brought some of his favorite modalities to talk about. And one of them in particular that we're talking about right now is called the Neurovizr. And Neurovizr has agreed to give away to one of the audience members here on Neville and Chill a Neurovizr Black Edition, which gives you a lifetime subscription to the app, which means you get access to all of the advancements that are coming down the line. They're constantly updating this app since I've had this device since 2022. So in the 2 years that I've had this device, the app is constantly changing. They're always adding new programs, new soundtracks, new features. It's actually quite amazing to witness the development cycle. You need to get access to all of that. And to enter this giveaway, you have to join the Neville and Chill Discord. It's called Uplink by School of Imagination. There's a link pinned at the top of the chat, and there's also a link right at the top of the video description on YouTube. Go ahead and hop in there. As soon as you land in the Discord, there's a link to a Google form where you can enter in your information. We're doing that drawing on Monday, December 2nd, 2024, giving away that Neurovizr Black Edition. And also, Tamer has generously agreed to give away 2 30-minute consultations. You can ask him really anything, get some insights into your health and wellness journey. He can draw on all of his expertise, all of his experience, the thousands of people that he's worked with over the years to help you understand your journey, perhaps with a little bit more clarity. So those are the three things we're giving away, but you have to join the Discord and you have to put your information in there so you can be included in the drawing. So I just checked the forms site. We've only got a couple of entries, so go ahead and hop on in there, get your name added, and may the best manifester, right? You got to feel that device on your head, right? Feel it. If you're resonating, you're like, I want to try this thing. Like, may the best manifester manifest the device. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start to wrap up here. I appreciate you taking the time here, Tamer. Is there anything? Well, actually, I want to scroll the chat here and just make sure that I've covered the main ideas here. Oh, there was one question I wanted to bring. This is important. Anything a new user needs to know, or any potential side effects, any important contraindications?
Yes, very good question. I really appreciate Michelle for asking this. There is one contraindication, and this is across the board when it comes to light sensitivity, and that is if anybody has epilepsy or is very seizure sensitive, like where flickering lights in front of your closed eyes is just too much for you and is uncomfortable. There are warnings in the app that before you can use it, before you can click through, that you accept that there is a contraindication for anybody who is photosensitive to seizures, meaning light sensitive to seizures. So if you are going to share with somebody that has epilepsy or is very photosensitive to seizures, we're just going to, unfortunately, it's not for you, because we want to be ethical and we want to be safe when we share this with people. And we know that light stimulating the brain in with 40 hertz, it is just something that we err on the side of caution for. So
okay,
there are all the warnings in the app. There's warnings on the label. It says, please, if you have seizures or if you have epilepsy, don't use this device. Give it to your friend, or send it back to us, and you'll get your money back, because we're ethical and we want to be safe with this thing. So, really great question there. Yeah.
Perfect. I also noticed the app has a light sensitivity test, so you can kind of very gently test. If you don't know, just kind of test. Hey, this is what it's going to be before you dive into the full session, right? So there's a little bit of a safety buffer built in there. Okay. Very good. Yeah, great question. Yeah, any final thoughts here that you would like to share with us, Tamer?
Man, first of all, thank you, Josiah, for having me back on to share with your community the biohacks and some stories, and just be part of this shared learning. I'm truly grateful. If there's one more thing I want to leave you with, is that it's Thanksgiving week, so just be grateful for all that you have, for all the abundance that's already in your life, for all the goodness that surrounds you, and just allow yourself to just luxuriate in gratitude for this week and forever. If you can stay on that vibration of gratitude every day and just live in that grateful state, that'll be the only biohack you need for the rest of your life. If you can just pound gratitude into your heart every day for every little thing, it'll be one of those things that you'll always be able to come back to as an anchor for consciously creating the reality that you dream.
Awesome. Wise words, my friend. Thank you so much for that. So beautiful. Okay, so for those of you that have hopped in the Discord, Tamer's going to be in there, and you'll be able to have a chat with him. He'll be sharing some pictures, maybe some videos of the silks, the show notes. We're going to update that. I didn't know everything we were going to talk about tonight, so by tomorrow morning, I'll have in links to some of the things that he's mentioned, show notes, resources, and then obviously with Tamer, and we'll see if we can get Angela in there too. You'll be able to ask questions and get some additional insights. Where's the form in Discord? Orlena's asking. So on the announcements channel, it is right there at the top. I think it's the only announcement, and it's also pinned in the live chat. So you should be able to find it. But I'm going to hop into the Discord once we end the stream here. So I'll make sure that link is posted once again. Yeah, so thank you, Tamer, for being with us, for generously giving us your time, for getting Neurovizr to agree to getting us a device for a giveaway, for offering consultation sessions, and just for all of your wisdom and wise words. And you bring such an embodiment of joy, and it's just a pleasure to know you and to call you a friend. Thank you for that. I'm honored to call you a friend, and also just bringing those vibes to the Neville and Chill crew. We just appreciate you. So on behalf of everybody who's been a part of this, thank you, thank you, thank you. Look forward to seeing you in another one. Someone was telling me, hey, I want to see Tamer and Angela together talking about their story. So we'll see if we can set that up. We might have to get a babysitter for Leo. We'll
You gotta find a babysitter first.
But yeah, so, and then to everybody in the live stream chat, I appreciate this community. It's so beautiful. I appreciate you guys so much. That's why we created the Discord, because we want to create a home for what we've built here. So really looking forward to having that ongoing conversation with you all there on the server, and looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday for the next episode of Sunday Mystery School, where we start to dive into your questions for the Q&A session. So with that, till next time, imagine wisely, my friends, and we will see you all in the next. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.